is and who ain't. Numbers is hard and real and they never have feelings, but you push too hard.
Mathematics by Most Deaf here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Ava DuVernay's new documentary called 13th is being released by Netflix on Friday. It premiered at the New York Film Festival at Lincoln Center here in New York. Part of the documentary looks at how ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, has played a central role in the expansion of the U.S. prison system. ALEC's work with states to write legislation promoting the privatization of prisons, in addition to pushing for harsher, longer sentences. Joining us now is Lisa Graves, Executive Director of the Center for Media and Democracy, who is also featured in 13th. Talk about the thesis of the film 13th. It's not just about the 13th Amendment, but the clause within the 13th Amendment that goes from slavery and the amendment of 1865 to mass incarceration today, and then how private corporations play a role in this.
Well, this film is a magnificent, incredible meditation about race and crime in America, and it really tells new stories. One of the stories it tells is about how that amendment, where it says that you can't be enslaved or you can't be put in involuntary servitude unless you're convicted of a crime, except as punishment, has really manifested in the 21st century and the 20th century through a lot of criminal justice policies. And one of the things that Ava DuVernay brilliantly shows is the role of corporations in joining in this effort, this very racialized criminal justice system, how corporations through ALEC have helped advance their own bottom line. And one of the things that she helps document is the role of the Corrections Corporation of America within ALEC. It was a member of ALEC for a number of years, as we've written about. It was the chair of ALEC's crime task force for a number of years, and ultimately it left ALEC after it was disclosed that CCA was in the room when corporations were voting on the SB 1070 legislation in Arizona that would have that was designed to put more immigrants in detention facilities and jails for immigrants. And CCA is just one of the many corporations that has been part of ALEC as it has pushed forward both privatization of prisons as well as measures to make people go to jail for longer sentences.
And explain how ALEC works. You've got the private corporations like CCA, and then you've got the legislators who introduce the legislation written by or co-written by the corporations.
Well, that's right. One of the things we discovered when we launched ALEC Exposed was that it wasn't just that corporations were lobbying these members. They were actually voting as equals with politicians at these ALEC task force meetings. So what happens is corporations help fund scholarships for legislators to go on these fancy trips. Then they're wined and dined on these trips. And then at ALEC task force meetings, like on criminal justice, the corporations actually vote as equals with politicians on these bills. These bills are written by corporate lobbyists. They're designed to advance the corporate interest. And in the criminal justice arena, we can certainly see the effect of that. Now, CCA claims it never voted on those bills. You know, it was certainly there when those bills moved forward that helped it privatize prisons, helped make it easier for people to be put into employment circumstances in prisons that Ava documents as well. And also a number of bills, 3 strikes you're out, truth in sentencing, mandatory minimums, numerous bills to put more people in jail and put them in jail for longer, which all increase the profits of corporations that fund ALEC, like CCA.
So you go from CCA, the Corrections Corporation of America, to ABC, the American Bail Coalition. Explain.
So the American Bail Coalition is a trade group that basically has documented it itself. It has praised ALEC to its members, saying that it really helped put ABC on the map. What ABC has done is work for the privatization of bail in this country, which has increased profits for bail bondsmen, bail bondswomen, bail bond services, and it's done so for people who are accused of crimes not yet convicted. One of the things that happened after we connected the dots on the Stand Your Ground law in Florida and how it was pushed by ALEC into law in state after state after a bunch of corporations left ALEC, one of the ones that remained was this trade group, ABC. That's because they want a piece of the pie for people who are released from jail. This is ALEC's effort to basically profitize every element of the criminal justice system, and ABC stands to benefit from that.
Where do the Koch brothers fit into this story?
Well, the Kochs are really one of the largest funders of ALEC. Koch Industries is a major funder of ALEC. Koch Industries has had a seat on ALEC's board as it moved forward with all these bills to privatize prisons, as it moved forward with bills to put people in jail and put them in jail, more people in jail for longer. But also, ALEC and the Kochs have been working together on their so-called Right on Crime initiative, which is part of this criminal justice reform. But what people don't realize is that within that reform package are measures to make it easier for corporations to get out of jail free. So it would change the criminal intent standards, if they're successful, to make it easier for corporations to commit crimes and get away with it.
Let me go to a guest we had on Democracy Now! When Democracy Now! Interviewed Mark Holden, Senior Vice President and General Counsel for Koch Industries, and why the Koch brothers were getting involved with a coalition to reform the criminal justice system.
Charles Koch and David Koch are classical liberals who believe in expansive individual liberties in the Bill of Rights and limited government. And so if your goals are to honor the Bill of Rights and to remove obstacles to opportunity, especially for the poor and the disadvantaged, you have to be in the criminal justice arena. And to answer your question, you know, as Van pointed out, what worked 20 or 30 years ago doesn't work today. And we have to have the intellectual honesty and courage and humility to correct that. In our businesses, we do that all the time when things aren't working. And I think to Van's point, what we're seeing happen in the states is really a template for what should happen at the federal level, and making sure that everything we do enhances public safety and that it honors the Bill of Rights and treats everybody in the system as individuals with dignity and respect, particularly victims, law enforcement, the incarcerated, the accused, and their families.
That's Mark Holden, Senior Vice President, General Counsel for Koch Industries. He appeared on Democracy Now! With Van Jones, the co-founder of Cut 50, a national bipartisan initiative to reduce the U.S.'s incarcerated population by 50% over the next 10 years. Lisa Graves.
Well, it's certainly good that they're embracing that now, but what they have not done is acknowledge their role. Koch Industries has been a leader of ALEC. It was the board chair for ALEC's corporate board. Koch Industries presided over the whole expansion of the criminal justice system at the state level through ALEC. And now it wants to pretend, in essence, that it wasn't part of that effort, that it wasn't a leader of ALEC during those measures. And so where there is consensus for reform, I think that should move forward. But where Koch is trying to change the law to make it easier to limit accountability for financial crimes, for environmental crimes, and other crimes that corporations might commit, I think those provisions should be dropped. They haven't been honest about that, and the Kochs are engaged in a massive PR campaign to try to burnish their reputation in the face of rightful and proper criticism from people about their undue influence on our entire democracy.
I wanted to shift gears a bit, Lisa. You have been looking at the Koch brothers for quite some time, looking at all oil politics in this country. Close to 100 scientists have signed on to a letter decrying inadequate environmental and cultural impact assessments for the Dakota Access Pipeline, calling for a halt to construction until such tests have been carried out as requested by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. This is the Dakota Access Pipeline, $3.8 billion pipeline being built in North Dakota that's being vehemently protested by not only the Standing Rock Sioux of the area, but hundreds of Native American tribes from Latin America, the United States, and Canada. What do you know about the politics here and the connection between the private company, the Dakota Access Pipeline Company, and the government of North Dakota?
Well, what we know is that there is a tremendous amount of influence by oil industry on the Republican Attorney General's Association. And so what we have disclosed through our open records requests and through other investigations is the incredible role of oil companies, including Exxon, but other companies, in basically getting influence with these attorneys general. The Attorney General of North Dakota has been the AG for more than 15 years. He's the top law enforcement officer of that state, yet he's been part of a pay-to-play operation that is the Republican Attorney General Association, where they raise money for this group. This group, RAGA, then helps fund those campaigns of those attorneys general. Meanwhile, corporations are getting special access to attorneys general to push their agenda, and they've used that access in a number of ways. We've only been documenting part of it, but this goes back for more than a decade, the role of RAGA and these Republican AGs with these energy industry companies. So we don't know the full story yet, but we know know undoubtedly that the fossil fuel industry has a disproportionate role within RAGA, and it has used that role, for example, to attack the Clean Power Plan and any other measure that tries to put democratic restraints on the oil and gas industry.
And finally, the presidential election, the Washington Post reporting that Donald Trump's transition team for the Environmental Protection Agency includes a climate skeptic, Myrony Bell of the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Can you explain who he is? He was recently speaking at the Republican Attorney General's Association, the group you're talking about, RAGA.
That's right. We recently posted a transcript of his comments at that event, and what we know about him is that he is one of the most notorious climate skeptics or climate change deniers. He works for a group that has been funded by Exxon and the Koch brothers for many years, Exxon to the tune of millions of dollars. And so he advances, he's one of the merchants of doubt, as the book famously said. He's one of the guys who basically is determined to sow seeds of doubt and try to throw every obstacle he can in the way of necessary efforts to address the climate changes that are underway.
Lisa Graves, thanks so much for being with us, Executive Director of the Center for Media and Democracy and publisher of PRWatch.org and Exposed by CMD.org. She is featured in Ava DuVernay's new documentary that's just being released on Friday by Netflix called 13th.